Hey, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome episode of the Life Inner Show podcast. I'm Jason Wojo. We got Polish Peter as my co-host here on the Life Inner Show. We help people live and pursue the things that matter most to them, creating lives and businesses they love. So, dude, today we got a really important topic. We're going to talk about how to approach and navigate the potential friction that can evolve between business ambition, business goals, accomplishing things, and things outside of business, like your personal life, that arguably are a lot more difficult upon first glance to really have goals around and to make tangible. So you can, for instance, have a goal. I want to make $1 million in my business this year, but how do you quantify, I want a better relationship with my spouse or my kids, and so I think for me at least, man, there's this constant kind of, not a comparison, but a balance that I need to reflect upon to see what I really value most, and also, the reward system I think in business is really one that behavioral psychologists have used forever. You have goals, you hit it, you achieve it, and sometimes it's a quick goal, and so you are able to knock off some of the steps towards that, and you feel good about that. You get acknowledgement, you get praise, you get, you get recognition, and sometimes those things aren't available in these other parts of our lives that arguably are more important.
Yeah, I think it's a really good discussion. I'm just curious for you, how did that come up for you? Did you talk to people, or how did that? Because I think this is a conversation that happens for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I'll say up front, we've had this discussion in the Life in Our Show before, what is enough? And for me, that's the wrong question. Meaning, I don't think, and let's be clear, my belief is that it will never be enough. And this is anything. If I
agree with that.
It'll never be enough. It'll never be enough. And, you're going to make $100,000 your first year, and your next year's going to be 250, then it's going to be 500, then it's going to be $1 million, then it's going to be 5 million, whatever it is. And so I think a better question is, how do you, the question I like asking is how can I, and I'm talking about business specifically now, but how can I make the most amount of money possible and make the most impact possible, but still do it within the bookends of my vision, meaning I'm not going to compromise family time, gym time, the other parts of my life that are important to me. And so that's a better question. And the reason this has come up for me is because I'm in a place now where I'm pushing pretty hard in business, and I've got a lot of different things going on, and it's a little bit busier season than normal. Now, I'm careful not to, like I said, impact my family. So for instance, here the last few weeks, I've been waking up early before everybody wakes up, getting some work done. And then as soon as everybody wakes up, again, it's family time. When my kids go to school, then it's work time, right? It's like no head down. And so, but I also feel, I've spoken with a lot of people recently who have this inner urge to just conquer and to accomplish things and to build something. And this is kind of built into the DNA of entrepreneurship, I think. We have ambition, and we have these abilities and these skills that we've developed and these blessings, and how do you utilize them in a way that helps you get A and also B at the same time?
Yeah. So listen, I think it comes from knowing yourself. I think one of the biggest things that people are dealing with is they're not aware of who they really are, kind of a thing. Meaning, they don't know themselves all that well. Because if that kind of, a lot of times the question comes up, why is it that, I should be with the family, I should hang out with the family, but I'm more driven to be in my business or grow it to million or 10 million or whatever it might be. I get a lot more, appreciation, or I get a lot more rewards out of that job or whatever it might be. Man, I should want to be hanging out with the kids, you know what I mean? And if you have a 2-3-year-old, for some people, 5 minutes into that playtime gets boring because they put the same block over and over and over again, the same hole, you know what I mean? And if you're a German entrepreneur, you're like, kid, just put the block in that hole. You know what I mean? It's not that different,
right,
kind of thing, right? So it gets boring. So I think the biggest thing that people need to start looking for in the perspective of being aware of themselves. What does that mean? I think that means that You know yourself by what are your beliefs, what gets you going, what gets you excited. And, like, so I'll give you an example. If we've talked about the, 6 human needs before on this podcast that Tony Robbins developed back in the day, let's say if it's significant, like you need to feel important, you need to feel acknowledged, you need to feel like you are the cat's meow kind of a thing. So if you have a job that gives you that, or you have a business that you are the boss, the man, or whatever, the woman, and you are getting a lot of rewards from it, you get those dopamine hits and you want to keep going and getting stuff from that. Then you come home and you see, like, the wife, let's say in this particular situation, is like, we need to take care of A, B, C, and G. I'm going to do the dinner. You need to take care of the kids, change the diaper or whatever. And now you just this, there is not a lot of, kind of a reward system. It's important for you deep down inside in some shape or form to be that dad or whatever it might be, but you don't get that dopamine, that reward system because with a kid. So when we talk about this, knowing yourself, then when you come home, you are clear that, what drives me is the significance and feeling important and all that kind of stuff. So maybe, just maybe, I need to reframe how I'm looking at the time with my kid. Because maybe when that kid is with me, that 2-year-old, and in this particular situation, guess what? I am his entire world, right? This kid is totally into me. He's looking at me, he's playing with me, and all that kind of stuff. Man, look how significant that is. To be the dad, to be the father, to shape him as he's moving forward. And when you start to reframe those conversations, I think it starts pulling you back into what's really important, because when we do the visions, right? We tell people to read the vision at the 3-day Get Life Giveaways. We tell them to prioritize. And what do we see a lot of times? Most people will put down what? The family, right? Or the wife, or whatever it might be. And then you wonder, like, why is it that I'm not drawn so much into it? So I think it's knowing yourself and then reframing a lot of the conversation that you have in your head to be able to go and do what you truly want to do. Does that make sense?
It does. I think reframing is a powerful part of it. It's an additional step that doesn't need to be taken in business, and that's where people get hung up, because in business, you automatically get the significance. Like when you do the thing, you get the significance. You see the tangible reward. You made money that day. You something cool happened. But in some personal things, that extra step, the reframe, is something that is necessary. And so, of course, there's other solutions here too. But and I'm not saying that, this has to be like you have to, reframe your personal life to make it match your business, because that would not be true. One thing that I think I find valuable, man, is kind of like pulling the future forward. And what I mean by that is, a lot of things in business have a very, there's up, and by the way, let's also be clear, there's ups and downs to business. It's not all roses and unicorns. But when it comes to like doing things in your family, those are oftentimes longer term results that take time to manifest. Meaning, like, hey, if I don't spend time with my kids when they're young, that's going to influence my ability to connect with them when they're older. And in fact, it's going to influence their memories of me, which will go on far beyond even when I'm still alive. And so pulling that future forward of what the result will likely be is something that I think is valuable, because, you can look at those moments as something special and as a very, very, very limited window. This business is always going to be there. Like, business will always be there. There will always be another thing to do, another goal to hit, another, waypoint, milestone. But, your kids are only, young once. Those moments with your wife or your husband, like those, you miss those opportunities. Like, too many of those strung in a row leads to a deterioration in your relationship. And so, like, stopping to unwind and actually be present for those moments. Like, and this is something that I've caught myself really a lot doing recently. And I've gotten more aware of them with age. Like, I remember, my oldest daughter now, when she was younger, I did not appreciate those moments. Like, I was still there with her and present with her as far as doing those things, but I didn't appreciate it as much. I didn't realize like how quickly it all goes. And here she is now, like living, a few states away. And when I see my younger girls now that are living at home, like every day, man, I'm like, this is, even for instance, my youngest doesn't want to go to bed right now. And so I'm sitting up at night with her and playing games and doing puzzles and stuff. And part of me is like, man, I'm tired. I want to kind of go to bed. Or maybe even part of me is like, hey, I'm waiting for her to go to bed so I can get a couple extra emails out. But again, I'm not going to do it while she's awake. But then I sit there and realize I'm like, man, like this is such a limited time opportunity. Like enjoy it. Like really, like be present, be there, like play, have fun. Like not like just pacify our spouse, our kids, or whatever, but like really, really dive in, because at the end of the day, like that's really the stuff. Like that's the most
Yeah.
rewarding stuff, even if on the surface it seems like that's not true.
Yeah. Sounds to me like she figured out how to stay up later. She just like,
Well,
Daddy, I want to play with you. And
it,
then
yeah, I
you're
know.
like, how kind of she got you around your finger, around her
Well, dude,
finger, and you're
I
like,
look forward to it. So my wife goes to bed before me, and like as soon as my wife goes upstairs, I hear the piddle paddle of her little feet is coming down the stairs, and she runs up to me and wants to play. It's awesome.
she's
And
smart. She's smart.
and dude, it's we have
So
ice
listen,
cream. It's a blast.
I think this is important because think about this. Like I have students in my coaching where we talk about, and as an analogy, let's say, for instance, this example, I need to make $1 million in my business so that I can take my kids to the trip, go on Disney World, do this or whatever it might be. So me going into that business, me doing all the business, working the business and all that kind of stuff to make that money, to hit that money is for the family, right? That's the conversation in their head. And I mean, I've been there, 2007, 8, 9, where I was thinking about it this way. And then, by the way, that by itself kept me away from being with the family, right? Because I need to do that in order to be with the family. So, in a way, this family thing becomes the someday kind of a conversation, right? So, how you shift that conversation? I mean, is this a right conversation or is this a not such a good conversation? You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people are dealing with that kind of like, especially I think a lot of times it's men that are doing that. I mean, I don't want to get into this whole conversation, men and women, but I think that happens a lot because we see it at the events. You know what I mean? I need to go and make that so that I can go A, B, C, D, F, G.
Yeah, I think that's a false justification that we use to explain our actions, and I think it falls apart under a fair amount of scrutiny. So if we were to take time and really look at that, we're just lying to ourselves many times, I think. And we've heard this before, I want to give my kids what I never had, right? Listen, how many of us have known kids that have gotten everything they wanted, and they're usually like, not the kind of kid you want to have. And so some of the most successful people in life have been people that didn't have, a silver spoon in their mouth when they were growing up. And so that's just not true. I think part of the thing that you mentioned before and knowing yourself is really part of this. Like, and really also, here's something else, not feeling guilty about feeling this tension between your personal life and your business, because I just think the reward system in business is set up a little bit more easily to be more addictive. And so it's almost like gambling in a way where, it's just it's very addicting. It's like, the Odyssey is out right now. And in the Odyssey, I haven't seen the movie, but I remember like, the book or the Iliad or whatever it is. And there's sirens on the seashore. These are these beautiful women that are singing to the sailors they're going by in their boats and their ships. And it casts a spell, a hypnotic trance over the captain, and they steer the ship into the rocks and crash. And I think business
totally makes sense. A bunch of women noises in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of ocean, right? I mean, that totally is plausible, right?
Yeah. Well, they're on the seashore. Yeah, they're in the seashore singing, and this is where I do think you have to look at life as compounding. And it's just like little deposits every day make a huge impact over the long term. And business is like that too, but I think there are more rewards along the way oftentimes, because how do you quantify, like, hey, my relationship with my, hey, I'm going to rate my relationship with my spouse on a level from 1 to 10. And to really put tangible metrics in there, it's not that easy. Or if you're gonna deal with your kids or your health, like, yeah, I guess health maybe is a little bit easier because you can have like, hey, I want to hit X percentage body fat. I want to hit, 200-pound bench press. I want to, run a mile in 8 minutes. Those are a little bit easier. But when it comes to relationships in particular, and the reason I'm bringing up relationships is because arguably for most people, and we've seen this now with thousands and thousands of people, that when we do these exercises that are Get a Life Getaway, relationships oftentimes are the number one
Oh, yeah.
thing. And so this is where I think you have to really kind of look at how you can stack the deck to your advantage to really get the reward from the personal life. And frankly, I almost think that your willingness to do that can really reflect your ability to make things rewarding that are more difficult to do that. So it's an evolution of your ability to find, like you were saying before, to reframe things, a sense of reward, of being rewarded, a fulfillment, of meaning, a purpose, of all things that are important to you in these other things. And also, if you look at, Life and Air is different in this regard, but if you look at a lot of these business masterminds, it's all about like puffing up your chest, like, hey, I made 10 million this year, I made whatever, like, and meanwhile, they're not sharing that their marriage is falling apart.
Yeah, we
That
see
their
that.
kids don't even want, the kids barely know them, and so
Yeah.
that's where I think there's a mismatch.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, these are really good points. The other thing that I want to bring up, I think it's important in this conversation is, remember, we talked about knowing yourself. So once you, let's say, know yourself, the other thing is you need to be very clear of the boundaries that you need to be aware of in order to protect what's really most important to you. Because what ends up happening is we have the belief system or their society, or we go into different, like you just said, you go to the masterminds and they puff up the chest, or you go and you are living next to a neighbor who they just pull in with a Lambo or something like that, right? So you got this keeping up with the Joneses, right? I want to keep up, whether the Joneses is actual neighbor or the Joneses is your sibling, or the Joneses is yourself. You have this inner battle that's going on, right? Maybe it's a comparison thing, right? Because you constantly compare. I think the biggest thief of joy is the comparison, like comparing to each other. Social media, you go out there, you look at some of these social media posts, and you will think that this person has the greatest life ever because of what they're posting. Well, I suck. I'm not there where I need to be. So I need to keep moving forward. I need to keep grinding. I need to, whatever it might be, right? So there is this being aware and then being present and conscious and intentional about the boundary so that I don't get back into that whole thing. I'll give you an example from my own life is this. Knowing myself back in the day, 2007, 8, 9, the big thing that was driving me the significance, feeling like important, I'm the cat's meow, blah, blah, blah. So now that I know this is a big part for me, I have to be very conscious and present to the fact that I can go down that route again if I allow myself, kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So then when I put stuff in the calendar, right, I don't take business calls in the evenings, like after 6, 7 o'clock, kind of a thing, because that's the time with my wife, that's the time with the family, or whatever it might be, right? So I know that this can easily bleed into. That also means, like, am I going to get on the computer and work on the stuff or whatever it might be? Now, if I talk to, let's say, my wife and we come to an agreement that this particular time it's okay for me to do that or whatever it might be, then yeah, but we are honoring that boundary, kind of a thing, right? But you have to be very careful to make sure that that boundary is in place for you, because you know yourself that could be very easily slippery slope, kind of a thing. That makes sense?
Yeah, but I also think how do you balance? So in your case, like if you know that's a slope for you to avoid, how do you balance still feeling that sense of significance without disrupting your relationship?
So the way I do that, so for instance, like with my wife, I know, like for instance, going to the gym for me, right? The way I framed it in my mind is that maybe at some point, she's doing it right now, kind of a thing. But at some point, if I keep going to the gym and I keep growing physically or whatever, stop laughing, okay? I see the smile, I see the smirk on your face, all right? She's gonna be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Right? So guess what? In a way, I use that significance thing to my advantage to keep going to the gym because I know what's important. What's important to be healthy. What's important to stay, alive for a very long time, kind of a thing. To be able to be with my wife or the kids. We had a conversation before when me and you back in the day talked about, if I don't go to the gym, I'm not going to be at the end of the aisle walking my dollar, kind of a thing, right? So there is that significance aspect of it. So you can reframe those different things in your life to play up to that big need that you have. So if
Yeah.
it's a growth thing because you're driven by growth in business, man, you're going to get some growth, whether it's good or bad. Because if the things are going bad in your business and everything's going to the toilet, you're losing clients or whatever it might be, guess what? All of a sudden you don't feel so happy about the reward system because now you're really there, but you're going to have to grow to be able to get back into it, right? Then you go in a relationship and it's a lot more muddied. What does that mean, growth? So how do I frame that? Well, maybe I need to go from the perspective having conversation with my wife and how she's feeling and where we're going. Maybe tonight we're going to this place and for the dinner, or we going on that trail that we always talked about, going on a trail. We go there to hike or whatever it might be, and now I'm feeling growth. So it's a lot of it is to pull me to it because when I'm growing, guess what? I'm growing with my wife and she likes me and she likes growing with me. And so a lot of it is framing and actually writing it down on a piece of paper so you are aware of it. Because guess what? When the time comes when now all of a sudden I want to stay till 11 o'clock in my office on a Tuesday evening, and I know that's written on my paper because I, guess what, wrote it back in the day that this is what's really important for me. Now there is this little nudge in me say, you know what? I need to go home. I need to stop. I need to go home, right? And then also, like, I think it's important what you just said earlier, like, it will never be enough. It's a moving goalpost. And when you understand that, then I think you're a lot easier for you to step away from that business and go and hang out with people that's most important to you.
Right. Because like, listen, if it's never going to be enough, and you know this, you have had this happen to you before, I promise, in some area of your life. So if you know it's never going to be enough, then you can just accept that it will never be enough. And therefore, like, hey, I still want to, it also takes a lot of the urgency out of it. Like, you don't have to hit it by a certain deadline. You can hit it by some other, other than self-imposed, restrictions. So in other words, like, hey, this is the way it's always going to be. I'm going to still have fun. I'm still going to strive. I'm still going to go for the things that matter to me, but I'm not going to do it at the expense of my family or anything else important to me. And the calendar, the vision, I think of, I took my daughter bowling recently, and, they're using the little gutter guards, the little things that pop up so the ball can't go into the gutter. And to me, just by analogy, like, if you are bowling and you don't have those gutter guards up and it goes into the gutter, you miss the goal, right? And that's the equivalent of letting your business spill over into your personal life and cause damage. But having a vision gives you those gutter guards so that you stay on track and you're playing within the boundaries of what's available. Another way to think about it is, playing the game of business on a football field, and in the out of bounds, the sidelines, like, that's your family. That's everything off the field is out of bounds, and you're not going to go out of bounds and play the game. And so the boundaries that you set are directly correlated with what you write down is most important to you. And so that's how I've kind of done it. And the only other thing I'd say, man, is, like, to me, the physical part of not working has become kind of easy, only through repetition, meaning, like, I know when to shut off work physically. Mentally is the next kind of, that's the next frontier for most people, so that you're actually enjoying that time. And that's where what I said before is I pull the future forward. For me, like that's a useful tool to help me do that. To really like just to actually play, you know, and I feel like having young kids, it's such a blessing in this way because like they are growing up so quick, and like every day is different. And if you're paying attention, you notice that. And it just, that same level of awareness can be pulled forward to every other part of your life. And so like, it's just an incredible reminder of like the fluency and the speed with which, you know, life moves. And so it just keeps you kind of locked into that moment and not drifting so that you're thinking about your to-do list or, you know, some business challenge while you're sitting there with your spouse across, you know, dinner at date night.
Yeah, the way I framed it for myself, reframed it for myself is that whatever I'm doing right now, whoever I'm with right now, or whatever is going on right now, it is the most important thing in my life right now. Like, I just look from the perspective, like, if I'm with my wife right now, it is the most important person in my life right now. Right? If I'm in a business and in front of the computer, it's the most important thing right now for me to work on. Right? If I am on the phone with a student, it's the most important conversation. So when I start looking from that perspective, my focus, you know, goes towards that. And that has helped me. And obviously, it is an exercise that you have to constantly do because what ends up happening is, you know, life will sometimes start trying to pull away. So one last question, because I need to wrap this up, I think, this podcast. But you play with the gutter bugs, don't you? In the bowling, when you play
What
bowling,
are gutter
you play
bugs?
with the gutter guards? Huh?
You said gutter bugs.
Guards, whatever. You play with them, don't you? I could see you totally.
I wish,
do it,
man.
right?
I wish. My kids keep beating me.
Yeah, but that's why you need to pull them up, man.
That's it. All right, listen, hope you guys got something out of this. More than anything, I want you to just let you know that you're not alone as an entrepreneur. This isn't a battle that you are uniquely facing. Like every entrepreneur I know, every business owner I know has a similar struggle. And in fact, if you don't feel this struggle, then I'm actually a little more concerned that you may not see some of the things that you're doing and you may be kind of further in the business than you recognize, because I think a lot of people have this awareness, and that awareness is the first step towards fixing it. We hope we give you a couple tools, a couple ways to strategically and tactically deal with this so that you can have both that amazing life and amazing business, because that is 100% possible. If you like the episode, share it and tell somebody about the podcast. We'd love to bring more and more entrepreneurs and overworked business owners along with this journey to help them just crush it in life and business. We'll see you next week, everyone.